Facebook right now. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I think I made you the
Okay.
moderator. Did you
Oh yeah,
notice?
you did. You did. Just call. Yeah, I am. I'm a moderator. Thank you. I was just about to send you the I was just about to send you what I found on the live chat basics. Like, oh, this is how you do it. All right, but there we go.
Okay, so now I can minimize that page and focus here. You
Yep,
got it.
I got
Thank you, sir.
you. Yes, sir.
Okay. Madam Jew, please go for it again. Sorry.
Okay, in chapter 14, verses 19 and 20, could you explain to me what happened when the pillar went behind them and the angel, well, the angel went before the camp and the pillar went behind them and the dark went to light and light went to dark and a cloud and all that, whatever. Could you explain that to me in real English? What happened right there? Because I'm reading in the King James, first of all. So if somebody can explain to me what happened there in verses 19 and 20.
Next. Okay. I would maybe would answer that today in a class. Maybe. So
Okay.
if it's not answered during the Q&A, um, ask again, and then
Okay.
I would comment on it.
All righty. We'll do.
Awesome. Okay. I think we can go ahead and start now. I'm going to go straight to the point. I have another engagement, another class, what do you call it? How did they? Where did they use? Is it intensive class for a group of ministers who want clarifications on certain things. So right after our class, we'll do 30 minutes of Q&A, and then I'll jump into that call to help them out. So we'll see.
Rabbi,
Yes, sir.
YouTube is saying they can't hear you. They say that you're very low.
They cannot hear me. It's
No,
because
they're saying you're low.
I have this thing very low. It should be better now. I had my mic on the OBS studio very low. It should be better now, I hope. Awesome. Mr. David wants to be a fly on the wall. Mr. David, let's see, maybe I can. But they don't want to know, they don't want their identity. So we'll do something. We'll make something happen. We'll make something happen.
I appreciate it. They want to stay anonymous.
They want to. Understandable. Yes, it's people in their congregations are asking the right questions. So it is time to really give correct answers.
Hey, they're taking a step in the right direction, so I can't be upset at it.
Yes.
No, you may use it.
Okay, so please, if we can mute our microphones, that would help us very well, so that we get a clean recording. I can edit on my side, but on YouTube, I don't think I have the time to edit it. So please let's mute our mic so that we get a clean video for those on YouTube. Okay, awesome. So we are doing. Am I recording? I hope so. Otherwise, I'll be in trouble with you guys. There we go. Yes, I'm recording. We've been. Come here, mute all. There we go. Awesome. we're studying the book of Exodus. We are going to look at Exodus chapter 16. But we have the feast of the blowing of the shofar, or Rosh Hashanah, as some want to call it, next week, I hope. I think it's next week that most are going to celebrate it or observe the feast. And what we decided to do yesterday was to use this class to give some insight into the biblical feast so that when we are engaged in it, we understand what we are doing. It's one thing to sit under a sukkah doing Sukkot booths and not benefit anything from it because it's just tradition. And it's imagine this: someone who maybe lives in the UK where maybe it would be snowing, or Canada, or on the East Coast where maybe it will be really snowing, that they don't get the opportunity to sit in a sukkah in booths, but benefits from that moment in time because they have an understanding that the person actually performing the ritual doesn't benefit from. So we want to perform the rituals but have an insight into what is happening so that we can tap into it. So today we're going to go a little bit into the mind of Yah to see why he chose these feasts at the time frames that he chose, and how we can actually keep the feasts meaningfully. And we're going to use the episode of the Manna and the quails to explain that, or to bring that insight. Now, I know this is a popular story, a popular narrative. And like I've always said, it's so difficult to teach narratives that are so popular. Narratives that people really don't read or don't know that well. It's easier to teach it, and it's easier for the audience to actually follow because they don't know it that well. But narratives like this tends to be difficult. So let's start by, as usual, forgetting everything and anything that we think we know about the episode. And let's read it like we're reading it for the first time. That would enable us ask certain questions that we may not have asked because we know the story so well. Most of you think that Yah rained down bread from heaven. That is not the case. I hope I did not disappoint you. Mr. Drew, I hope you're not kicking. That is not the case. Let's find out what actually happened and what is it that they ate. Can we explain it in natural terms? Let's give it a shot, and then we'll look at the divine providence, or the divine hand behind the manna and the quails. Let's start from the top. Exodus 16. They journeyed from Elim, and the entire community of the children of Israel came to the desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month, after their departure from the land of Egypt. So this is exactly 1 month since they left Egypt. And in about 2 weeks, they will reach Sinai. How do we know it's exactly 1 month? Because we are told in Numbers 33 that they journeyed from Ramses in the first month. On the 15th day of the first month, on the day following the Passover sacrifice, the children of Israel left triumphantly before the eyes of all the Egyptians. So on the 15th day of the first month is when they left. Now they are on the 15th day of the second month. So exactly 1 month since they left Egypt, that they are going to have this encounter. And it's about 2 weeks that they will get to Sinai. Okay. When we get to Exodus 19, verses 1 would tell us that in the third month, that is when the encounter is happening at Sinai. So we see that it took them a month for them to be fed with whatever they were fed with, and then it was the third month. So we're looking at about 2 weeks more to trek to get to Sinai. Beautifully. So we have a time frame. So next week would explain why this time frame is important, because we find out what the test is with giving them food and why and what it has to do with the receiving of the Torah. But that is next week. Let's come back to today. So we are told they journeyed from Elim, and the entire community of the children of Israel came to the desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month, after their departure from the land of Egypt. The entire community of the children of Israel complained against Moshe and against Aaron in the desert. The children of Israel said to them, "If only we had died by the hand of Yah in the land of Egypt, when we sat by pots of meat, when we ate bread to our fill. For you have brought us out into this desert to starve this entire congregation to death." If you compare the people complaining here and those that complain in Exodus 15, we see a difference. In Exodus 15:24, we read, "The people complained against Moshe, saying, 'What shall we drink?'" What is the difference? In verses 15, the complaint is isolated. Wait, let me ask this question. Yes, I think it's a good question here. When Exodus 16:2 says the entire community, we know that all the children of Israel, everybody is complaining. In Exodus 15:24, it says the people complained. Who are those referred to as the people? That is a question.
The elders, Rabbi.
The elders. Thank you. So in Exodus 15, it is the elders that are complaining to Moshe. It's gotten bigger. It's no more isolated, but rather enormous. We have moved from the people murmuring to the entire congregation murmuring. So it starts from an isolated packet of people that were complaining, and then spreading like wildfire, engulfing, consuming, and catching up everybody in its path. That is how complaints start. That is how things go down the drain. One person complains, or a group of people complain. If something is not done about it, now it spreads all over. And that is what is happening here. Nobody seems immune from the complaint. No one challenges it, like we see Joshua and Caleb do later on, or no one arises about it. Everyone is complaining here. Okay, they want food. The children of Israel said to them, to Moshe and Aaron, If only we had died by the hand of Yah in the land of Egypt, when we sat by pots of meat, when we ate bread to our fill. For you have brought us out into this desert to starve the entire congregation to death. So Yah said to Moshe, behold, who is Yah addressing here? Moshe. Put that in your spirit. Yah said to Moshe, behold, I am going to rain down for you bread from heaven. And the people shall go out and gather what is needed for the day, so that I can test them, whether or not they will follow my teaching. I want to say something, but it's for next week. Let me restrict myself. And it shall be on the 6th day that when they prepare what they will bring, it will be double of what they gather every day. The only thing Yah says here is that he's going to rain down bread from heaven. He does not specify when or how. And he says nothing about meat. I'll repeat that. The only promise that Yah makes here is that he will rain bread from heaven on the Israelites. He does not specify how or when. And he says nothing about meat. Now, without any further revelation recorded by the text from Yah, Moshe now informs the people that Yah will give his people meat in the evening and bread in the morning. Moshe tells them. We just heard what Yah tells Moshe. Very specific. This is what Moshe tells the people. Thereupon Moshe and Aaron said to all the children of Israel, in the evening you shall know that Yah brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of Yah when he hears your complaints against Yah. But of what significance are we that you make the people complain against us? Who is Moshe talking to in verses 6?
It said to all the children of Israel.
That is what it says, but it's misleading.
It looks like he's talking to. Not. Oh, I was thinking to Yah.
No, it's
I don't
actually,
know why.
yeah, it says, thereupon Moshe and Aaron said to all the children of Israel. So, if you don't read on, you will think that he's talking to all of them, but here he's talking to the elders. We'll see very soon, because he's going to now call the people to come near, to come listen to Yah. So Yah gives Moshe a message. The message is not that detailed. Moshe comes and he passes on the message with some details to the elders. Where he gets what he tells them from, I cannot tell you. Maybe you have a theory. Is it that the text doesn't record the conversation, all of it? Or is it that Moshe saw something? I don't know. I wasn't there. I cannot tell you. But the text is silent. Moshe gives more details than he's told. And he gives it to the elders. Now, after speaking to the elders, he continues. So let's start from the top. Thereupon Moshe and Aaron said to all the children of Israel, in the evening you shall know that Yah brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of Yah when he hears your complaints against Yah. But of what significance are we? That you make the people complain against us. Because you started it with the water. Now they've seen that the leaders are complaining, the elders are complaining, so now everybody is complaining. So Moshe is kind of blaming them, let's say. And Moshe said, when Yah gives you in the evening meat to eat and bread in the morning, with which to become sated, when Yah hears your complaints, which you are making the people complain against him. But of what significance are we? Not against us are your complaints, but against Yah. Moshe says two things which we have to hang our hats on. He said, in the evening you shall know that Yah brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see. So you're going to know something, and then you're going to see something. These two things is going to blow your mind, pretty much, if we can put it in those terms. In the evening, I'm going to do something, and you will know that I brought you. And then in the morning, you're going to see something. And that would also bring a confirmation. You would see my glory, my kabod. We'll get there. Now he's spoken to the elders. Now we're going to turn to the community. Verses 9. And Moshe said to Aaron, say to the entire community of the children of Israel, draw near before Yah, for he has heard your complaints. And it came to pass, when Aaron spoke to the entire community of the children of Israel, that they turned toward the desert, and behold, the glory of Yah appeared in a cloud. Let me pause here. Did they see anything? When they turned, what did they see? Mr. Drew says they saw a cloud. Yes, they saw something. The glory of Yah appeared in a cloud. Put that in your spirit. It's important. They saw something. Yes.
Father Basil, can I ask you a question?
Please.
I don't know, but I'd be worried if I made a complaint about Yah and then I was told to go near him. Like, he's heard your, or I made a complaint and they say, oh, draw near to Yah. Does that make sense?
Correct. Their complaint was against Moshe and Aaron, though, not Yah.
Yeah, but you know when you made a complaint about Moses and Aaron, I mean, if he says to you, and then they say to you, draw near before Lord, for he's heard your complaints. I don't know, that made me feel very uncomfortable. I'll probably go the opposite direction.
It could be, yeah. True, yeah, it could be uncomfortable. It's like, oh, so we're not complaining against you, it was Yah. Yeah. Because now the elders know that it was Yah they were complaining against. I don't think the entire community know that. So now, Yah has been made the reference point here. No. So when it came to pass, when Aaron spoke to the entire community, verse 10, of the children of Israel, that they turned towards the desert, and behold, the glory of Yah appeared in a cloud. So they are seeing something. They are not seeing Yah. Don't confuse that. They are saying the glory of Yah appear in the cloud. Yah spoke to Moshe saying, I have heard the complaints of the children of Israel. Speak to them, saying, in the afternoon you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be sated with bread, and you shall know that I am Yah your Elohim. So it seems Yah is confirming what Moshe reveals to the elders. Don't forget, when we got a bird's eye view into Yah and Moshe's communication, we only got just a little bit information. Moshe comes to the elders and expands on the information that the author doesn't really tell us a lot about. And here, when Yah is addressing the whole community, he confirms what Moshe had told the elders. In the afternoon you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be sated with bread. Don't forget in verse 7, he says, you shall see the glory of the Lord, or of Yah. That is, when it comes to which of the two items? Is it the bread, or is it the quails, the meat? Seeing the glory of Yah is in reference to what? Is it the bread or the meat? It's the bread. The meat, they're going to know. The bread, they're going to see his glory. Don't forget that. Don't forget the two. Okay. Let's come to the bread. When Yah says that you shall see the glory of Yah, the glory of Yah is something that one can see. What is it if I'm supposed to define it? The glory of Yah is not Yah himself, no, but is a visible manifestation of the divine. In whatever form. Most of the time, it's a cloud, maybe smoke, sometimes fire. That is not Yah. You're not seeing Yah. You're not seeing the deity. You're seeing his manifestation, a visible manifestation. So Yah's glory is a breathtaking and glorious visible manifestation of the divine. So, Madame Drew, when we talk about the pillar of cloud that went before them, that was the manifestation or the visible manifestation of the divine. It went from in front of them, behind them, because if you read the text, it says the Egyptians overtook them. That also has to be explained in details, how that would look like. But you have an idea. So it is a manifestation, a visible manifestation of the divine. We see that throughout Tanakh or Torah. Yes, Tanakh. You see it also in Torah. Yes, Mr. David, this is what Moshe saw when Yah passed by him. Correct. Okay. Numbers 14 tells us the entire congregation threatened to pelt them with stones. But the glory of Yah appeared in the tent of meeting to all the children of Israel. So it appears. They saw it with their naked eyes, as we say. They were not seeing Yah, they were seeing a manifestation of him. In Numbers 16, we are told, Korah assembled all the congregation against them at the entrance to the tent of meeting. And the glory of Yah appeared before the entire congregation. Everybody saw it. Number 17, we are told, it came to pass, while the congregation were assembled against Moshe and Aaron, that they turned to the tent of meeting. the Ohel Moed. That word Moed is what is translated as a feast. It's a poor translation. Moed doesn't mean feast. Ohel Moed is a place of meeting. That's why it's called a tent of meeting. So Moed is a meeting place, not a feast. We get to that. And they turned to the tent of meeting, and behold, the cloud, so it's a cloud, covered it, and the glory of Yah appeared. So it's in the cloud. It could be fire, it could be light, whatever it is. Numbers 20. Moshe and Aaron moved away from the assembly to the entrance of the tent of meeting, the Ohel Moed, and they fell on their faces. Then the glory of Yah appeared to them. So, in these instances that we have seen, the divine, or the kabod, the divine is represented by the cloud encased fire that will later rest over the tabernacle. The tabernacle is not there yet, but what they are seeing is a cloud encased fire. That was the representation of Yah. It's not Yah, but it's the physical manifestation of Yah. Sometimes it's a sound, the shofar blast. That's how he chooses. The text says they saw sound. They saw sound. How do you see sound? They saw sound. No. So there are a lot of places that the glory of Yah is mentioned. In Exodus 24, when we get there, we see that the glory of Yah looked like a consuming fire. In Exodus 33, Moshe asks Yah to show him his glory. That is what Mr. David mentioned in the chat. In the book of Psalms, David affirms that the heavens declare the glory of Yah. The prophet Isaiah, I believe, speaks of a day when the glory of Yah will be revealed, and all mankind together will see it. So it's something that is visible. Ezekiel, I believe, also speaks of seeing Yah's glory, his kabod. Also, this is not, when we talk about the cloud representing the manifestation of a deity, it is no news in the ancient Near Eastern religions. It is no news, because in the figurative language of the ancient Near Eastern religion, the sudden self-manifestation of the deity is frequently expressed in terms of storm phenomena. So, Madame Drew, how would they have explained the cloud if they were reading it back then, or if someone was telling the story? Automatically, anyone in the ancient Near East would interpret that as the manifestation of a deity. So that is what is happening here, because we see clouds in early Canaanite literature referring to, several times, refers to divine attendants or messengers. So the Canaanites will use cloud as a divine attendant or a messenger. We will say angels and all that stuff. But this is how the people in the Asian Near East would interpret it, is the representation of the deity. That is why the text has the Egyptians saying that the deity is fighting for them. He blocks our view with darkness, and then they have light. They would understand it, the Egyptians will also understand it, which they do, as the manifestation of the deity of the children of Israel. Awesome. Yeah. Also, we see in Ugaritic literature, the gods Asra, Baal, and Mut all have their cloud messengers. That is how the Asian Near East would interpret this. Any questions here before I move on? Leviticus 16 also tells us when Yah was talking to Moshe, he says, and Yah spoke to Moshe after the death of Aaron's two sons, when they drew near before Yah and they died. And Yah said to Moshe, speak to your brother Aaron that he should not come at all times into the holy within the dividing curtain in front of the cover that is upon the ark, so that he should not die. Why? For I appear over the ark cover in a cloud. So, putting it into their context, they cannot relate to this because this is the world that they live in. We cannot relate to it because we are removed from that world. Awesome. So let's go back to our text. The text tells us that in the morning we are going to get bread. In the evening, they're going to get quails or meat. The question we are trying to answer is what made the bread so unique that it demonstrates the glory of Yah? What is it about the bread that makes it so unique? Let's find out. It came to pass in the evening, Exodus 16, that the quails went up and covered the camp. And in the morning, there was a layer of dew around the camp. The layer of dew went up, and behold, on the surface of the desert, a fine, bare substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the children of Israel saw it, they said to one another, it is manna, or meaning, what is this? That's the correct rendering. What is this? Because they did not know what it was. And Moshe said to them, it is the bread that Yah has given you to eat. Notice they did not ask about the quails. Their focus is the bread. And Yah says when they see the bread is what is going to demonstrate his glory. First question, was it bread? We've read in Sunday school, we've seen in the movies, we've read in the text that he rained down bread. Some say it's spiritual food. Is it really? Like, was it bread? Most people are saying no in the chat, which is correct. Say it again, sorry?
I was saying, could we look at the definition of what bread was supposed to be?
Awesome. Hold that
In
thought.
order to see what we're talking about.
Hold that thought, Mr. Jason. So we all know that it's not bread. We all know that. Okay, now, logically, why is it not bread? How do we know from the text itself that it's not bread?
The lack of yeast?
Lack of yeast, okay. Not really.
Because they didn't know what it was.
Because they did not know what it was.
They could have recognized it.
Correct. We read about their bread not having yeast, not having leaven. I mean, everybody knows what bread is. So, for them to ask, what is this? Or what is it? It means that it is not bread. It means that it looked nothing like bread. That is why the Hebrew is lechem, which means food as well. It doesn't always mean bread. So just looking at it, we know it's not bread. So we should throw away our Sunday school picture of wheat bread falling from the sky. That is not what is happening here. Because they said, what is it? They didn't know what it was. Madam Oniata, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm thinking now, since you've been saying all of this, could it be made from the dew that came from the ground?
Well, look at it. We change our picture of what this thing is. You have a point. We get in there. So we have the picture, which is understandable, of the clouds opening, right? And then bread's just coming down. And they were eating bread. That is not what is happening here. Because the Hebrew word lechem does not always mean bread. It could mean food as well. Yes, please go ahead, Mr. Drew.
Question: is this a echo out of Genesis, like when God watered the ground with dew?
I never made that connection. You have a point. You have a point. I have to look into that. Let me write it down here and see the connections. I didn't look at the connections. 1 second. I'm writing it down here. I'll probe into it more. Genesis bread. Awesome. It could be. I haven't looked at it before. Made the connection before.
Brother Basil, you know, it makes me think about all these songs about bread from heaven. Like, what is that?
Madam Cynthia, don't go there. I know those songs, yeah. Bread from heaven, bread of life, all that stuff. It's not bread. Let's remove.
Oh, this changes a lot, Rabbi.
It
We're gonna
does.
get to it. The bread, he's the bread of life.
Correct.
We use these scriptures to quote the bread of life. But this is not even bread. It doesn't mean that the Hebrew word does not mean actual bread like that you eat. So it's crazy.
It's food. Food. They say manu. Manu is ma. It will be rendered as what, but they say manu. The reason they say manu, which we believe, or looking at the language, it may be older. What they say may be either, some argue that maybe it was Egyptian, but I argued that it may be an older form of the language, because it's supposed to be ma. Ma is what? No, what is it? But they say manu. So when you go back into when you go back into the ancient Near East, we see that what in Ugarit is emet. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I wouldn't even try. I think the pronunciation is uncertain because I don't know Ugarit. Maybe Divine can help me. In old Canaanite dialect is manna or manu. In biblical Aramaic is man. In Jewish Aramaic is mena. In Syriac is manna. And then in my dialect is mini, meaning like what? Like mini. So instead of saying ma, the text says manu. And I think it's going back to a very old version of the dialect. Just by the way. So you see that it's not just something that is being made up. If you go through these languages, you see that they have the same consonant. Okay. So they say, what is it? They don't know what is it is. So we're going to see details of it. Let's read on. This is the thing that Yah has commanded. Moshe is the one speaking here. Gather of it each one according to his eating capacity, an omer for each person, according to the number of persons, each one for those in his tent you shall take. And the children of Israel did so. They gathered, both the one who gathered much and the one who gathered little. And they measured it with an omer, and whoever gathered much did not have more, and whoever gathered little did not have less. Each one according to his eating capacity, they gathered. And Moshe said to them, let no one leave over any of it until morning. But some men, did not obey Moshe and left over some of it until morning. And it bred worms and became putrid, that is, decay or to decompose. And Moshe became angry with them. Okay. They gathered it morning by morning, each one according to his eating capacity. Now we're going to learn some things about their manna. And when the sun grew hot, it melted. Bread doesn't melt when the sun grows hot. It came to pass on the 6th day that they gathered a double portion of bread, 2 omers for each one. And all the princes of the community came and reported it to Moshe. We'll look into all these details next week. That's not the focus today. So he said to them, this is what Yah spoke. Tomorrow is a rest day, a holy Shabbat to Yah. Bake whatever you wish to bake and cook whatever you wish to cook. And all the rest leave over to keep until morning. So they left it over until morning, as Moshe had commanded. And it did not become putrid, and not a worm was in it. And Moshe said, eat it today, for today is a Shabbat to Yah. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is the Shabbat, on it there will be none. It came about that on the 7th day, some of the people went out to gather manna, but they did not find any. Yah said to Moshe, how long will you refuse to observe my commandments and my teachings? Wait a second. It hasn't been given yet, but we'll get there next week. See that Yah has given you the Shabbat. Therefore, on the 6th day, he gives you bread for 2 days. Let each man remain in his place. Let no man leave his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day. The house of Israel named it Manna, and it was like coriander seed. It was white, and it tasted like a wafer with honey. So this is what Exodus 16 tells us about the manna, whatever that thing is. In Numbers 11, we get more details. Numbers 11, 7 and 8. Now the manna was like coriander seed, and its appearance was like the appearance of crystal. The people walked about and gathered it. Then they ground it in meal or crushed it in a mortar, cooked it in a pot, and made it into cakes. It had a taste like the taste of oil cake. When the dew descended on the camp at night, the manna would descend upon it. So interesting. We still don't know what this thing is. What we know so far is that the manna fell during the night. It was flaky, as fine as frost. It resembled coriander seed. It was white in appearance, but also had the color of bdellium, and tasted like wafers and honey, and like rich cream. The manna would be collected, ground between millstones, or pounded in a mortar like Numbers tells us, boiled in a pot and made into cakes. Any of it not eaten that day it was collected, became infested with maggots and stank. So what at all is this thing that has these features and called manna? What is this? The interesting thing is that there is still a biological phenomenon attested to this day in the Sinai peninsula that lies behind this biblical manna tradition. It's not something that just happened back then. It still happens. We have a tree called the tamarisk bush. This bush grows in semi-dry localities in the Mediterranean region. There are two types of insect, sucking insects, which infest this plant in the lowlands. These insects, they have scales and they suck the sap of the tamarisk, which is rich in carbohydrates. Everything I'm saying, you can research it, which is rich in carbohydrates, and excretes the surplus onto the twigs in the form of tiny, what word should I use? Tiny balls, like popcorn looking. They soon crystallize due to rapid evaporation and they fall to the ground. These things are sweet, they are sticky, and they are edible. The interesting thing is that it's in the morning that you see them, and they have to be collected before the heat arises, else the ants will get to them. This is the tamarisk tree. It's called the manna tree. To your left, that is my left, and to your right is what they produce when the insect sucks the sap from this tree. And then the surplus, it excretes it onto the twigs in the form of these tiny white popcorn looking things. So when the dew comes in the morning, like the text says, it removes them from the tree and then they get to the ground. But you have to get to them because the ants will wait for the dew to settle, to be dry before they come out. If you don't get to them ahead of time, the ants will get to it, and then you cannot eat them. So when you do your research, you would notice that this has been discovered. We read about the Trabutana manipara. You see the name Manna there, there's a reason. And we are told it's found in the Middle East and Southern Europe. Due to its association with the biblical story of manna, we are told, the tamarisk tree, it excretes a sweet substance, which is sometimes collected for human consumption. The species can be found in the Sinai and Iraq. So it's not bread coming from heaven. It is a tree that certain insects, usually found in dry places, it feasts on this tree and then it would remove or suck the sap. And then the surplus, it excretes it onto the twigs. They are white. The dew removes them from the leaf to the ground. You have to get it before the sun comes up. Otherwise, the ants would also get it. When the ants get to it first, you cannot eat it. What they are calling ant here may be maggot, whatever it is. But when they get to it, you cannot eat it. Now we understand when Yah says, in the morning you will see my glory. Why? I have put in nature a phenomenon doing my creation, probably making arrangements for this moment. I'll prove it with the quails. I will show you my glory in the morning because I've programmed in nature to give you food. When did I program it? I believe in Genesis. Put that in your spirit. We are not done. Now that we know what it is, the manna is, it becomes very useful in clarifying some outstanding features of the biblical manna tradition. The manna is a natural phenomenon. Going to tell you that I am the creator of the universe. This is not the sky opening, because that is how we picture Yah. I've said it over and over again. We have a picture of the God of the Bible that we created, but not the one in the text. Awesome. This phenomenon, put this in your spirit. Yes, so Madam Cherie, the psalmist refers to this as angel food. Maybe because it would fall under poetry or song, music, maybe. But in reality, no. It was because they didn't know what it was. I mean, they did not know what it was. That's why they said, what is this? So, under the genre of poetry is angel's food. Of course it is. How do you get it? From this natural phenomenon. Okay. So, put this in your spirit. The phenomenon, I'm saying it happens today. Till today, this thing repeats itself. The phenomenon usually commences in early June. Put that date in your spirit. It commences in early June. Put that in your spirit. Okay. We've dealt with the manna, what it is. Now let's come to the quails. This is what we read. It came to pass in the evening that the quails went up and covered the camp. And in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. So when the dew left, that is when they saw the manna. But the quails came. Can we explain the quails? Easily. The manna falling is not what is mind-blowing. That is not. It sounds interesting. It sounds revelatory, but that is not the wow factor. Okay. The quails that descended in the evening, like the manna that the people found in the morning, also has a natural explanation. The narratives, notice, the narrative says little about the quails. And there is certainly no suggestion that they were available every day. The text doesn't say that. It says little about the quails. But it doesn't say that they were available every day. It doesn't say that. Put that in your spirit. Let's look at the quails. Cotenix. What do we know about these quails? It would blow your mind. The quail, as you see in the picture below, they are a short-tailed game bird of the peasant family. These quails fly rapidly at very low altitudes. It is well known, and to date it still happens. It is well known that the quail migrate in huge flocks from Europe to Central Africa in the autumn and they return in the spring. I repeat that. It is well known, and it still happens today, that the quail migrates in huge flocks from Europe to Central Africa in the autumn, and they return in the spring. Now, due to the long distance involved, the migration is carried out in stages. The small quails, twice each year, they land exhausted on the Mediterranean shore, where they can be easily captured by hand and by nets in great quantities. Like I said, it still happens today. The quails still migrate today, every year. If you've had quails before, it's a delicacy in Europe because it's exported there. Their flesh and eggs are quite delicious. And to this day, like I said, they are prized food among the local populations and are exported as a delicacy to Europe. With that explained, Yah says, "In the evening you shall know that Yah brought you out of the land of Egypt. In the morning you shall see the glory of Yah when he hears your complaints." What is the wow factor of these two phenomena? I'm saying the quails itself, that's a natural phenomenon. The manna we've explained is a natural phenomenon. Yeah, maybe they are impressive, but what is the wow factor, the most impressive factor of what is happening in Exodus 16?
Rabbi,
Mr. Jason.
it's the timing of nature.
The timing of nature. The season of the year in which the Israelites encountered the quails fits precisely with the bird's migratory pattern. We've established the natural background of the story. In the same way, the manna as a material substance is reasonably accounted for as a recognizable phenomenon of nature. We know all that, that's fine. But it is the timely arrival of these realities that imparts to them a supernatural quality. So now we know when Yah said, "You shall know that Yah brought you out of the land of Egypt, and then in the morning you shall see," these two things providentially appear just when they are sorely needed, in order to emphasize that the manna, in particular, is the product of divine intelligence and will, which takes these events of the Exodus outside the realm of the mundane and the secular. Now we understand when Yah tells Moshe, "Remember, you are going out in the month of spring." Why did they leave in the month of spring? Because they had an appointment. They had a meeting with destiny. because it was a moed. And a moed does not translate as a feast. As I explained, the place that Moshe met with Yah is called the Ohel Moed. We translate that as the tent of meeting or the place of meeting. Moed is when nature has an appointment with man. When Yah has an appointment with Yah, it is a place of meeting. So he says, Moshe, mark this date. I have an appointment with you. The quails, they are coming. The manna, they are ready. This is when I supernaturally meet with you to do what? To provide what is needed at that appointed time. At the precise time. He looks into the future. He knows they will need food. He says, I would work with the quails. They would leave around the time that food will naturally be provided to them. Until the earth remains, seed time and harvest shall not cease. Yah's appointed feasts are arranged around seed and then harvest. When he says, these are my moeds, this is when I meet with you. These are when the portals open. These are when it's not your prayer. This is when nature is responding because I have looked ahead of time and decided that this is the opportune window to meet whatever need that you have. So somebody will celebrate Pesach in the spring and doesn't know that windows are opening, portals are opening, and what is needed is provided. But now we know they could not leave. I've always said they could not leave in the winter because they would go hungry and die. Yah will not open the heavens and drop down bread. He's not going to do that. He's already put everything into nature. When he created it in Genesis, he made provisions for all these. And then he comes and he says, at these set times, these moments and times, I want you to get ready, prepare yourself, and meet with me. You may not need quails in the Sinai desert, but you may need something wherever you are. And in those appointed times, I am going to release them. Only if you have this insight. If it's just a ritual, okay. But with this depth, we get ready. Wherever we are, I may not be able to sit in the booth, but I know that is a divine appointment. So I get ready to meet Yah. I may not know what is made available on Sukkot. I may not know what is made available on Rosh Hashanah. I may not know what is made available on Yom Kippur. I know in spring, quails and manna, they're coming. The same thing happens with the other feasts. When we get insights into them, we would share. Or, let me rephrase that, at the appointed time, we would share. But this is what is happening. I'll repeat. The word moed that we translate into feast doesn't help us understand what is happening. because Moed is a place or a meeting place. When you have an appointment with a king, you prepare. You know the king can maybe solve some of your problems, so you prepare. You cannot give the king anything that will blow his mind. He has everything. But Yah says, you can still give me something. How do you give to a deity that owns everything? He says, when you give charity to your brother, to your sister, to the one that has a need, you have borrowed, you have given to me. It's like I owe you. So on these feasts, that is why I explain all the time, is when we give charity. He says, take what you need for the day. Don't hoard. Don't hoard. There's no need to hoard. On the feast day, I look into my coffers and I say, this is mine for the day. This is yours for the day. So we give charity so that we can all have. Because that is how I give to the king. And then I get ready to meet him. Because you don't come before a king without a gift. You don't. It's not appropriate. And the only way you can give to this our king is if you give to your neighbor. This is the feast of Yah. I hope with this little class of explaining the manna and then the quails, and when they show up at the appointed time, the quail will not show up in September. The manna will not show up. Like I said, the manna happens in the autumn, June. Not autumn, but June. When the spring is ending. When these guys are moving from Europe, coming back. The quails. So it's a divine appointment. You don't want to miss it. You want to prepare for it. Because you may not see quails or manna. But spiritually, jewels are being given out with blessings. Questions, contributions, additions before we close?
Rabbi, I just had one quick statement.
Mr. Jason, go for it.
I've been studying the feasts and going over them, and there's something precious about the month of Teshuvah, where there are most of the feasts that are taking place during this month, and looking at the actual dates in which they were given, like the 7th month first day, the 7th month 10th day, the 7th month 15th day, the 7th month and on the 23rd day. Like when you actually look at the Hebrew, like look at the representations of those in the numbers.
Correct.
There's a word that forms from them, and the root word is Aleph, Sade, Rish, and it means to give an ear to be thoughtful, and to pay very close attention to the time.
Wow.
So I'm doing my paper write-up on that, because I believe that
I'm waiting to read that article.
Speaking to us, yeah, I have somebody edited in the first
Awesome.
one.
Awesome.
This is my second one, so I'm having somebody to edit it for me right now, because I'm not a good writer. My thoughts come out the way I think to speak them, so I'm trying to get everything put together. But with this, he's revealing something to us today. These dates are not just random days chosen.
Correct.
Like it's speaking to the nation.
Yes.
And one of the words that I got from moving around the letters that you can produce from those dates is the root word of Aleph, Zare, Resh, and it means to give an ear to.
Wow. Impressive. Yes. We need to give an ear to them. We need to understand them. You've heard me say it over and over and over again. You can sit in booths, leave after 7 days, and have no impact. It was just a ritual. You cannot sit in the booth because it's not favorable, because it's snowing outside. But with the understanding of the feast, you draw more from it than the person who sat in the booth. You can wear fringes all day, even in the shower, and it will not benefit you. It's a ritual. But someone may not wear fringes, but have a depth of insight that benefits them all the time. Understanding is key, not rituals. He says, I will do this so that you would know and you would understand. That is no, you understand me, that I'm the creator, and I'll prove it to you so that you see my glory demonstrated by the insect eating the sap from that tree and excreting it out onto the leaf, and the wind blowing them with the dew to settle on the ground so that you can have food. And I will let you leave in time so that you don't miss the quails, because the quails, they've begun the journey from Europe back to Africa. It's an appointed, a window in time that you don't want to miss. You prepare to meet Yah. Any other contributions, questions? Madam Marie.
Hi. Speaking about the window in time, I noticed from the scripture that the time of the falling of the manna, and I also noticed that each time Abraham and say Isaac and our forefathers met with Yah, like on a personal one-on-one, it was around the same time. Like between, it
Correct.
says that the manna fell
Yes.
in the dark.
Yes.
And I find that really interesting because I had a conversation once with Lady Joy, and she was explaining to me how active the skies become at that time. And so I decided to stay up till like sometime between midnight and 3 in the morning. And she is absolutely correct. And I also find that at that time, I'm able to hear Yah more clearly. I think there is something very significant about that time. It's very important for us to connect. And I think the bread that the author described the manna as, it's food for the soul, not for the body. It's the words that come from Yah is food for our souls. It gives us life. It gives us a positive outlook. It reminds us of why we came. It gives us purpose. And I think on that level is what I took away from this class today, is the importance of connecting with Yah at that time, because that's the time he gives us that bread.
Correct. Correct. True. What kind of faith does it take to open or split the Red Sea? If you go back to that narrative, did any of them have any faith?
No.
Not a single one. Not even Moshe. If I have to put my money on someone, I put it on Miriam. But everyone was shaken. Wait. You have been taught that you require faith for these things to happen, correct?
Yeah.
That's what we've been taught. You've tried it. It didn't work. I bet you that. It did not work.
Yeah.
Why did the sea split?
Rabbi, I read an article on why they believe the sea split, and it was a scientific phenomenon.
Correct.
It was saying that during that time so they were saying like it was a major unorthodox hurricane season, and the winds of the water was blowing at like 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So what happened was it made it split so that a person could literally walk through on dry land. I saved it here on my page, but it was written probably like 12 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were just saying,
True.
like, could the Red Sea actually split?
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, and they proved it scientifically that if the wind blew this hard, that the waters would literally part because of how they flowed, and people could walk through it.
Correct. Why people don't see this is because they have the image of what I said last week. We thought that Moshe came, raised his hand, and immediately the sea parted. But we saw that the text doesn't say that. The text confirms what Mr. Jason's just said. It says the wind blew all night. All night. So when they, I've seen that video that Mr. Jason is talking about. When they replicated it, they had that jumbo fan. I don't know whether you've seen, that was the one that you saw, Mr. Jason. They had that jumbo fan.
No, it was an article I read.
Oh, okay. I
saw. I'm about to go look for the video now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen the video. And it blew. They turned it on. It blew, and you see the dry land show up. The reason the sea split was because it was a divine appointment. It's not your faith. I created nature. I know what I put in it. I know the set times. I know when the earth goes to sleep. I know when the earth gives its yield. I know when it's going to rain. I know when it's not going to rain. Even though nature has a mind of its own, I've programmed into it divinity. So when I say, meet me on Sukkot, I know why. Meet me on Rosh Hashanah or Yom Teruah, I know why. Because I control nature. And I'm going to use, like I said, Yah doesn't have to open the clouds. Everything is programmed. He said, I determined the end from the beginning. So when you read, let there be light, the calculations that has been done before that statement was made, it's quite profound.
Rabbi,
Madam Jew.
it always bothered me that they told me, well, Western religion said the thing that I was praying for didn't happen because I didn't have the adequate enough faith.
Correct.
That was their answer. Yeah, the answer was, well, it didn't happen because you didn't have enough faith, and you need to have more faith. And if you'd have had more faith, it would have
Correct.
happened. And this is so ironic that it took no faith, zero faith,
Zero.
to open up the entire Red Sea, and that I had never had adequate faith to pray for somebody and they be healed. Well, they said, well, he died because you didn't have enough faith, or he wasn't healed because that always drove me crazy. Now I see that was a false narrative, but no faith to open the Red Sea. You just blew my weave out.
Do this research. When did the walls of Jericho fall? Do the research. You find out that it was at a feast day.
Wow.
All the major things that we call miracle that happen in the text. Do your research and find out what feast day did it fall on. Check.
Will do.
Rabbi, all of Yeshua's major miracles was on feast days too. It'll say like during the Feast of Trumpets, he said this,
correct.
he did this. Like most people don't pay attention to that. You have two questions though on YouTube.
Yes.
I wanted to post in the chat for you. Okay. The first question was from I think I posted it here.
Oh yeah, I saw you posted in the chat here.
Yeah, it was they was asking how does the manna
how does the
Christ? Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
Rabbi, how does this topic relate to Christ's resurrection?
Okay, so let me answer this question.
Can I have another one for you?
Let me answer this question by looking at it constructively. The author who was writing this narrative did not know about Christ. So he's writing the narrative without thinking about Christ. It's very important. So he's not importing anything about Christ into the narrative. It's not there. Okay. Those reading the text or those hearing the text being read would have never thought about Christ because it wasn't a factor. It's not in there. That is not, if you put it in context, you cannot see anything about Christ there. What happens is that, or what happened is, when those who were writing the New Testament, penning the different books of the New Testament, they had the Torah as their source. So they're looking at the Torah and then they're looking for proof text to prove certain things. So when they see a narrative that matches maybe their theology, they would pick that and then apply it to whoever they want to apply it to. Yeah. But coming from the person who wrote it, coming from the people standing there encountering this, coming, if you ask those who sat and heard this being read to them, or the story being told to them before the era of the New Testament, nobody would have looked at this and pointed it to a figure that is coming. But when it comes to the New Testament perspective, when it is now penned or codified, what they were doing was they were looking at the Torah and then they were looking for proof text. So it depends on how you look at it. If you look at it from the author, if you look at it from the audience, if you look at it from those who may have sat and heard the story, they wouldn't have imported Christ into it. But if you look at those coming after or during the time of after the death and resurrection of Yeshua, now you have that, or the use of the Torah as proof text to validate these claims or happenings, if I can put it that way. Okay, Mr. Jason, what's the next question, please? Okay, Mr. Jason would come back. So I hope I explained.
No, I mean, I'm sorry. I've been talking. I had my mic on mute. I didn't want to
No problem.
I didn't want you to breathe yet. It says that the why does Yeshua HaMashiach say only believe? That's a layered question.
He says only believe.
Yeah.
Well, what was the context of that? So you have two things. One says believe, and then on the feast day we see extraordinary things happening. But believe, that is a very interesting word. But yes, we don't see that in the Torah. In the Torah, we are told to know. Know that I am Yah. Knowing means that there has to be a research. You have to have proof. So, yes, maybe Yeshua says believe. I don't know why he says that, but the Torah says we should know. So, knowing, you should have a reference point. You should have a reference point when it comes to believing. Emunah, that word emunah does not mean faith, belief. That's a loose translation. It means to be faithful, consistent, to be convicted, to have a conviction. When they encountered Amalek, we're told that they lifted up Moshe. Moshe's hand was in emunah. You cannot say his hand was in faith. His hands were steady. It was steadfast. That is how they won their fight against Amalek. So, yes, Yeshua says believe. If you believe, you can move this mountain. Say to this mountain, it will be removed. Maybe you've proven it. I have not.
Rabbi, I would add, you need to look up, use the interlinear Bible when you're reading the scriptures, and look up what does that word mean in Greek. Because what they'll tell you a lot of times with the interlinear Bible is that you'll find words that says one thing in Greek, but then it'll tell you that this word is used almost exclusively in a Jewish context. So then you got to find out what does the Jewish context of that word actually mean. And then you'll get a better understanding.
Okay.
Like with the seek ye first the kingdom, like if and its righteousness. Well, when you look up the word righteousness in the Greek, it says this is almost exclusively used in a Jewish context. Well, we know what righteousness is because the scriptures tell us in Psalms that the Torah is righteous. The Torah makes one right. So we understand what the idea of righteousness is. So when Yeshua was saying, seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, if you look at it in the context of which he was speaking from his Hebraic standpoint, he's telling you to turn back to the Torah, turn back to the teachings. because the teachings is what makes you righteous.
Correct. Correct. Yes. Let me ask
Hello,
this
Rabbi.
question. Yes. Is Madam Sonia?
No, I'll let Miss Phyllis go first, I think, because
Oh,
I
okay.
want to switch gears here for a minute.
Okay. Was there
Oh,
it was Madam Michelle.
Michelle.
Yeah, it was Madam Michelle. Yes. Go ahead, Madam Michelle.
Yeah. Thank you. It's basically a comment and then a question for you, Rabbi.
Please.
My comment was that what you've taught has just really made me want to look at all the so-called, what they call miracles, and do an in-depth study on them. This is very interesting what you're bringing out. And the second thing is when you talk about the Red Sea, I just remember the first time that I saw a tsunami and how amazing that was. That it was like dry land. It went for miles, and the people that didn't know what was going to happen, they walked on dry land, right? And then the tsunami came back on them, almost like the Mitzrayim. So
Correct.
that's real interesting. That makes me think about that. But for you, I just wanted to ask, like, when you do these studies, I mean, where do you start? Okay, so you saw the manna, you saw the quail. What made you say, okay, I'm going to look up this insect? Or how did you get from the manna to the insect?
Correct. So, like I said in the class, Yah is not going to open up the heavens and drop out bread. That is the kind of miracles that we have been taught and read in books. But we see that Yah uses nature. He works with things that we can relate to, that we can see. That is why I kept saying this thing still happens. So you can verify it. You can check it. They are not Disney stories. So when I read the text, I'm not looking for myth. I have to be able to explain it to my 5-year-old that this is not magic. Yah is not a magician. So if the people ate manna, they ate bread. I cannot tell my 5-year-old that Yah opened the sky and dropped bread. And he asks me, why doesn't it happen again? My answer is, he is Yah. Okay. Is it a real book? Is it historical? Or is it fantasies? It's historical. Okay. So can we explain these phenomena? How did this happen? Now we have science, we have archaeology, we have the data. So when I read the text, I am reading it as a historical book. Real people were in Egypt as slaves. They left. They were fed. How were they fed? It cannot be supernatural that I cannot explain. So now we start the research and says, okay, is this a phenomenon? What do we know about the Sinai Peninsula? The quails that came is there because we know Yah works with nature. Okay, are there resources that prove that this thing really happened? And this is years of research. I mean, I've been doing this for a while. So, and with a very good teacher that I had, So with that, I am trained to question the text. The text has to make sense. And then what I cannot explain means that I haven't gotten that much information to be able to explain it. Remember, on the simple level, and that is what we've been doing for the past 4 or 5 years, simple level of the text for it to make sense and say this is what happened naturally. That's why history cannot answer questions of the supernatural, miracle. How many of you here have seen a dead person who is dead in the mortuary, dressed up in a coffin, and someone prays for him, and the person gets up?
No one.
Not someone who's clinically dead. I'm saying dead, dead. How many of you have seen it? I haven't. I've seen fake ones. I see that all the
No,
time.
me neither.
So, to tell me to believe in something that you can't duplicate, I'm sorry. I'm believing in a myth because it doesn't happen in the real life. That is why I asked when we were doing that TV show, you telling me Balaam's donkey spoke? I beg your pardon. Donkeys don't speak. You cannot convince me. Not one bit. I think we've all done some level of education that it would take a lot for someone to convince you that the donkey spoke Aramaic or biblical Hebrew. No. So we go to the text and we see that, what? Oh, it was a dream. Now it makes sense. Because we are pushing the text to make sense. So that is how I approach the text. It has to be literal, to the point, simple, and I ask the questions. So, like I always say, the characters in the Torah are real people that you can relate to. You can relate to them. They had real issues. They had marital issues. They had issues with children. They had issues not being able to give birth. Women issue, men issues. I can relate. I can pick up the text and say, I'm going through the same thing that Abraham is going through. Okay, how did he solve it? Because the book is of instructions to guide me. When my kid, God forbid, is dead in the coffin, when I stretch my hands and say, get up, would it happen? Can we relate? I'm not saying this is wrong. By his stripes we are healed. Why are all the pastors not in the hospices healing everyone? I want it practical. I don't want a myth. Practical. Why are they not raising up all the dead? Why are they not healing those with autism? But yet you present me with a book that it happened inside. Show me. Show me. I don't want myth. I want real life evidence. If it only happened in the book, excuse me, I cannot relate. I'm not saying the book is wrong. I'm saying maybe it falls under a different genre. Maybe it's poetry. Fine, no problem. I'm not condemning the book. I'm saying that when you tell me, I look at this mountain and I speak to that mountain with faith, it should move, and it doesn't. Either there's something wrong with me, or maybe it's the wrong genre. Because we're facing real life issues. So if we are looking for the heavens to be cracked open, for a deliverer to show up, I don't see that in the Torah. When a deliverer was needed in Egypt, Yah took somebody from our midst, a human being, groomed him to lead us out. Because the sky is not going to open. I'm not a prophet, but you can mark my word. I'm not a prophet, but you can mark my word. The sky is not going to crack open. No one is going to sit on a cloud and come to our aid. It's not going to happen. Take it to the bank. Yah will raise up one of our children, groom him, and deliver us. So stop looking to the skies. Look to the children at home. When Balaam was called to curse us, he stood on a mountain and he saw Israel, and he says, how beautiful are the tents of Jacob. The homes of Israel. Understand that prophecy. It starts from the home. That is where deliverance is coming from. Our children that we're looking at and say, hey, we can do this. It's going to come from within. The sky is not opening. I'll say this again. Take it to the bank. I may not be here, but you can quote me any day. Any day. You can quote me. Because instead of black people coming together and working, educated intellectual people are waiting for the sky to crack. Really? Wait. Keep waiting. Keep killing us till we get some common sense that the skies don't open. It's never opened. No one has dropped from it. It hasn't. I haven't seen it. And you are not going to see it. Let's get together, get our things together. Let's train the next generation, give them the experiences they need, set them up, buy all the things that we can buy for them. Most of you believe in the New Testament. You don't know what it says. You don't, because you're waiting to go to heaven. When Yeshua says, go into all the world, cosmos, the Greek word, cosmos, it means the governing system. Go into banking, go into sports, go into entertainment. That is what he is saying. You cannot change anything from sitting outside. You have to be in there. But oh no, somebody taught us to look into the skies. Somebody is going to open the skies and then come and make some people servants. Good for you. I'm not rolling with you because I like people with common sense that we can get together and buy the houses, buy the communities, buy the stores. I would rock with people like that. You waiting for the sky to open? I'm not your guy. Nope. If you have real solutions, let's make it happen. Moshe did not drop from the sky. Moshe did not drop from the sky. No one dropped from the sky. So please, let's use our intellect. Yah did not send an angel to go talk to Pharaoh to say, let my people out. He sent a human being to lead them. The human being had flaws. He fought. He made mistakes. Same thing is going to happen if there's ever an Exodus. So, that is my 2 cents on the matter. When Yah, in closing, and then another question, then I can go. When Yah brought the people from Egypt, and the first time he's going to talk to the whole nation, he brings them to Mount Sinai, and he says, I am the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt. Now, let's use our common sense. If you are God and you want to boast to a people that you're speaking to for the first time, I think I would brag more than telling them I took them out of Egypt. I would say, I am the Lord your God who created the universe. I'm the Lord your God who said, let there be light. He doesn't say that. He says, I'm the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. Yeah, you did, but do you have any other experience? Why didn't he say, I am the Lord your God who took you out of... No, why didn't he say, I'm the Lord your God who created the heavens and the earth? Why didn't he say that? That is the question. Why didn't Yah say, I am the Lord your God who... I am the Lord your God who created the heavens and the earth? The first time that he's speaking to the Hebrews as a nation. But rather, he says, I'm the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt.
Yeah, I used to wonder that, Brother Basil, all the time.
Correct.
I used to think, why do you bang on about that all the time?
You're telling you, you're trying to boast, you're trying to let me feel like you are the it, right?
Yeah.
But is it
I'm thinking you got so many. Like, why are you banging on about this thing? It always bothered me. I was like, what is this about Egypt that he keeps on banging on about? You know?
could it be because that's what they actually he actually showed them? He actually proved that to them. That's what they physically got a chance to see.
Correct. He doesn't want you to
Personal.
believe. He wants you to know. You were not there
Personal.
when he created the heavens and the earth. It means that you believe. That's when a religion is born, because you believe in stuff. Look at all the religions. How did they start? One person came from the back of the mountain to come and tell us that God spoke to him. Dude, I wasn't there when he spoke to you. Why should I follow you? Now God is speaking in private? Makes no sense. The moment he says, I'm the Lord your God who created the heavens and the earth, I wasn't there. So it means I'll believe. But he says, know that I am Yah. Know it. So he tells them, this just happened. I just took you out. I am that deity who took you out. But now look at the difference. Joseph Smith came and told us that he had a revelation somewhere. Forgive me, Muhammad does the same. The holy prophet, he does the same. Gets a revelation somewhere and says, yeah, spoke to me. I can't verify it. I can check it. All the Christian denominations, one person got a revelation and started something. How can we check it? Yah comes to Moshe. Oh boy, look at my time. Oh boy. Let's go. Yah comes to Moshe and tells Moshe, go bring them. Tell them that the God of their fathers has happened upon you. Bring them to the mountain. What was Moshe's first response?
You go get them.
Correct. But before he
They're
said
not
that,
gonna believe me.
they will not believe me. Why should we believe you? We should leave Egypt and follow you who ran away. And from nowhere, this deity has seen you, so we should do what? Follow you to Sinai? Oh, good story. Nice one. He says they will not believe me. They are not supposed to, because we don't act on belief. We act on knowing. So Yah says, no problem, no problem. I know, it's a lone person revelation. If they believe you, actually, they have a problem. There's something wrong with them in the head. But let's do this. You bring them here. Let's arrange and bring them here. And then what am I going to do? He says, Moshe, come up. Stand here. I am going to descend. And I am going to speak to you, Moshe, to the hearing of over 3 million people. And they will do what? Believe in you forever. How many people saw Yah speak or hear Yah speak to Moshe? Everyone that was standing there. So when Moshe is writing, he says, you saw for yourself. You saw for yourself. You saw for yourself. Not believe. Stand still and see the salvation of Yah. Not believe it. Torah is practical. We can relate to the tears of Leah. We can relate to the abandonment of Sarah. We can relate to Haggai being kicked out, not having water, no food, crying out because her kid is dying. And I don't like comparing. And forgive me for this comparison. Forgive me. Abraham, take your son, 3 days journey, and go and kill him. And the man did not utter a word. Put yourself in his shoes. And then go to the Garden of Gethsemane and say, take this cup away from me. And you have God, have man. Come on. Forgive me for this comparison. You came to die for my sins. You want to get out of it? It's too much. But the man walked with his child 3 days. Heaven was on a standstill because a human was going against his father instinct. He wasn't half God, half amazing. He was full human. And he went, and I can relate every step. What would I say to my kid? Is this thing real? Oh boy. He didn't complain. Now Yah says, I know. By myself I have sworn. Practical. I can relate. A man who doesn't sin. Just last night, I think I committed a sin. I think, I don't even know, but I think I'm not perfect. So how can I relate? The focus is heaven. In Genesis, when Yah said he created the heaven and the earth, the focus was all earth. Heaven is never mentioned again. Why? Because this is where we work. This is where we come to do work. The Torah doesn't focus on heaven because heaven is not the focus. What was Yeshua's prayer? Your kingdom come, not your kingdom go. Your kingdom come on earth. This is where it's at, not heaven. But somebody told us that we should build treasures in heaven so that we go to heaven. And yet Yah says come to earth. Make earth an extension of heaven. You don't have to leave earth to come to heaven to see heaven. But somebody changed the message. Everybody wants fire insurance because they are scared to go to hell. Is that the message of the New Testament? No, it's not. But you haven't read it. The text doesn't say seek ye first Jesus. It doesn't say that. Show me. I have the man on record telling me, seek ye first the kingdom of God, not Jesus, not Messiah. Seek first. I don't know how you understand that, but when somebody says I should seek first something, that is what I seek first. So if your goal is heaven, I'm not your guy. If your goal is earth, making earth a better place, I'm your guy. I would rock with you. That is why I say, Kingdom of Kings is not for everybody. I understand that. I have lost friends on record. I have lost friends because of my stance. People have made videos about me because of this. Do I care? Psh, not one bit. You want to play religion? Go ahead. You want to make earth a better place for the next generation. You're trying to flee and go to Israel? Go ahead. But the book that you say you subscribe to, that you haven't read and studied, has a parable that the kingdom of Yah is like a woman who took yeast and put it into dough. But you are the yeast of the earth and you're running away from the dough. You put the yeast in the dough and then you put it in the fire, let it heat up. The yeast is supposed to make the bread rise. That is how we know that the kingdom of God that Jesus spoke about is being effective. But you want to run from the United States and go to Israel because you're not manifesting the kingdom, but you preach kingdom. Go ahead. We will stay and prove that we are the chosen people. We are chosen for an assignment, not to run. And we would work with those who would work with us. We will learn from those that we can learn from. They may not look like me, but wisdom is not in the head of just one person. Wisdom doesn't know color. So go ahead. You noticed I have stopped the Hebrew nonsense. I've stopped that because I realize we're dealing with people wilderness people who needs to be cleared away for the next generation to take the mantle. So now it's strictly Torah. How can I take what is in the Torah and manifest it? I'm not, for the record, I'm not interested in heaven. I am made for earth. When I'm done and my time is up and I'm called, I would say this is what I did. I was consistent. Judge me by that. We are here on a mission, on assignment to change, to bring Torah to the nations, not to escape. Go to heaven. Heaven. The same heaven where you tell me angels rebelled. That is the utopia. In heaven, where it's supposed to be peaceful, angels rebelled. Then we're not even safe in heaven. What kind of theology is this? There's war. I'm leaving here that there's war on earth, and then there could be war in heaven. Really? Oh, okay. I don't know if I want to be in that kind of heaven. Maybe I should go back to the text and find out what Yah really talks about. Because if angels can rebel, then you're not safe. What if you get there and one of the other angels decide, okay, I'm going to rebel today, and you have to pick up arms and fight again after all the mess on the earth? Yikes. Let's sit up. Let's read that New Testament well, if you subscribe to it. Find out what the text is saying. Jesus never preached faith. He didn't preach anything. Sit down. I said this in a class, and someone made a video about me. And people ditched me, left me. Like, you remember, in your own book, I was fulfilling prophecy. Prophecy. Jesus took disciples and he says something crazy. And when he turned around, they've all left. You think he'll panic. You don't panic when you're speaking truth. Who cares who believes it? I don't care. Oh, he said this, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Let Yah judge me. I am human. I can make a mistake. When I make a mistake and you point it out, do I care? Oh, thank you. I didn't see that. Awesome. Thank you. Good looking out. But you make a video? I don't care. When his disciples left, 70 or so, you would think he would panic. According to the New Testament, I said you haven't read it. I've spent time, read this thing, taught it, wrote commentary on it. The great mark of leadership Yeshua demonstrated when the 70 left because he said something crazy, something they did not agree with. He turned to the 12 that is remaining and he says, are you also going to go? Why? He was willing to go alone. That is the mark of true leadership. It's not crowd. It's not YouTube numbers and every. No. You don't need the whole world to change what needs to be changed. Like-minded people, focused people. He turned to the remainder. He says, are you also wanting to go? Why? He would have gone alone. Want YouTube numbers? Go for it. Conferences? Go for it. Debates? Go for it. Doesn't change anything. Pick the New Testament and read it. And the only message that man preached was the kingdom of Yah. What is the kingdom? How does it work? What did Moshe preach? He's bringing the governing influence of heaven on earth. Of heaven on earth, not earth to heaven. Heaven on earth, not earth to heaven. Our Father, who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Thy kingdom come. Your will be done on earth, not heaven. On earth, as it is in heaven. But you want to go to heaven. We'll come later. Because we have work to do. Okay. So, when we speak about the New Testament, We don't criticize it. We look at it how it's supposed to be looked at. We take the Jews from it and say, this is what the man preached. That's the only message. If you can show me anywhere Jesus preached Jesus, I stand corrected. I have checked. I have studied the New Testament thoroughly. That was what I started studying at the age of 15. Those that I started studying with, they are still there. Some of them are pastors. I can give you their names and their numbers. Ask them. 8 hours a day, sitting behind text, straight text, just studying. Not to boast, but that is the dedication. This thing has to make sense. How can you pick up the New Testament when you haven't finished the Tanakh? How can you pick up season 2 when you haven't read season 1, studied it in its entirety? But we just pick up the New Testament and we make up doctrine. But you pick the Tanakh and you start reading, and you see that your doctrines will start dropping. You will see that things you believed were garbage and is not in the text. You will see that you believe things on the pulpit that is not even written down. But because our search for the truth is not truthful, just pick up season 2. Ask the group on here. 3 years studying Genesis. 3 years. 3 years. Why? Because we're not playing games. We want to see what the text says. What does it say? Why is it written? How can I relate to it? It's speaking about my ancestors, human beings who had troubles that we are having today. Moshe said, this is your wisdom. So it means that when I open it, I should find wisdom about children. I should find wisdom about marriage. I should find wisdom how to deal with troubles, issues. It's all in there. How do I wiggle myself out of these situations? I pick up the text. How did Abraham do it? How did Isaac do it? David, what went wrong? Hezekiah, wow, what a human being. Moshe, is that how leadership is? Do I want to be a leader? Joshua, wow, how can you take over from a Moshe and still produce? The judges, oh boy, these guys are real failures. Samson, is that what happens when I don't use my gifts well? This is your wisdom, Moshe tells us. And Yeshua says, I didn't come to take anything away from it. So now I check him. What is he saying? Oh, he's talking about the kingdom. Okay. Is that what Moshe preached? Yeah, it is actually. Nice. And I go through it. Oh boy. Nice parables. This is wisdom. Did he preach Messiah? No. As you go, teach this message. He sent them in twos. He knew they had their own messages like you. He knew you were going to come up with bogus messages like the disciples. Because they saw miracles. They saw him walk on water. He turned water to wine. That's what they saw, so they want to rush and go and teach that. He said that is not the message. No. Don't go and teach what you saw. You have whole sermons talking about how Jesus turned water to wine. And the man says that is not the message. He says, as you go, teach this message. The kingdom of God is at hand. And then demonstrate it. Teach this message, because that's the only message. Every other thing is just bogus. The message that was taught in the wilderness, teach that. But we want to talk about resurrection, ascension. How do you solve sin? The text says that the prostitute, the thief, will enter into the kingdom of heaven before you people who are righteous. They will enter first. Why? At least they know that what they're doing is wrong, but they're trying. They're improving. You're too righteous. All you do is keep commandments. Wear my zit-zit. Walk around. Fashionable. But he's given us talents, work, to do work. In closing, listen to this parable very carefully. The parable of the talents. The one who hid his talent was sent to hell. Why? It wasn't because he committed a sin. He slept with someone's wife. He did not wear zit. Why did he go to hell? Why was he sent to a place of torment? Because he did not do the work he was sent to earth to do. He hid his talent. Waste of time. Didn't do anything. And that sent him to hell. So if you're sitting here thinking that's sin, you're trying to solve sin. That's what you're trying to solve, sin. Go ahead. When you get there, they will tell you, you remember that sermon that Rabbi preached and you were listening? You have no excuse. When we leave here, it is our work that we did that goes before us. It is what we do, the impact that we have. On the cross, did Yeshua say, I am finished? Go read your text. Did Yeshua say, I am finished? No, it is finished. The assignment has been completed. You haven't started. I was sent for an assignment. I have completed it at the age of 33, however it is. Have you started yours? He completed his assignment. Have you started yours? You worried about sin. The cemetery is full of people who didn't show up. Wealth. The cemetery has more wealth than Africa. the cemetery. I heard that from one wise man. It changed my life. So I started writing books. Doctors didn't show up because they didn't start. Entrepreneurs, teachers, they died with their gifts inside of them, and they're buried in the cemetery. They're so wealthy, so much gold and oil in the cemetery, because man has lost his focus. No wonder Yeshua spoke in parables. But hey, what do I know? What do I know? I've bought 15 more minutes from the pastors I'm going to sit with this afternoon. So we have 15 minutes more. If anybody has any statements, comments.
Shalom, Rabbi.
Mr. Yao, Shalom.
Let me just say this here. I said it in the chat, but I started out. I didn't say it all of it. I started out trying to wanted to know YHVH name, and I remember right after Katrina, I believe it was, or even before, I started getting really into my Bible. Even when I was in the Marine Corps, started trying to find my walk. So and I always asked, I said, lead me to the one you have called to preach and teach your word. So I'm searching and searching and searching. So it's a long while time before I came to you. So it started out the name, and I went to a website, Judaism 101, I think it was. I pulled up, I was looking for the name of God, and it had the name, and I clicked on it. But when I went to hear it, I couldn't hear it that well, so I went to play it back. It would never play. I said, man, I couldn't get it. And so, and I lost it, and I couldn't find it. So anyway, like I said, I started asking God to lead me to the one he called to preach and teach your word, in which I believe that is you, because I already told and said it in class before, someone that I know that don't know you, and I know their character, and Ralph, and he had a dream about you, and only YHVH could do that. So, and also while I had a friend of mine, I was talking with named Danny, and we was talking numerous conversations on different topics, and we got on the one about the Bible, and I used to tell Dan, I said, because I started reading the Bible, and I finally read it from the beginning to the end. So I told him, I said, Dan, you got to read the Bible from the beginning. I had to say it to him several times. So finally he started doing it. And then he would call me up, and I'm laughing because he asked me questions. And it's like, it doesn't make sense that go hand in hand, like what you're saying, when people read it for themselves. And this, you got to read it from the beginning. And the way that YHVH is blessing you and leading you, I pray that he would always keep his eyes upon you and your family and lead and guide and protect you with his mighty right arm. Thank you.
Man.
That's all I have to say.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was encouraging. Thank you so much. We all have talents. I'll be honest with you guys. Nothing comes easy. What Mr. Jason is doing, he says write an article. That's why I want to read it. Because he knows something I don't know. And I will tell you to the whole world, it's not everything that I know. Sometimes I make mistakes. I'm human. What I don't know, I learn from someone else. What I know, I will share. If I don't know it, you all bear witness to it. I tell you to your face, I don't know it. I don't stress myself. But Yah will test you to see if you're genuine. Are you doing this for money, or you doing it because you want to do it? It's something that needs to be done. So when you start something, I'm talking about not dying with your gift. When you start something and no one supports, that should not mean that Yah is not in it. No, if you start something and immediately it's successful, check it. It's not Yah. I'll repeat that. You start something and immediately it's successful, please check it. Yah doesn't work that way. He makes sure you are ready. He makes sure what you said you are going to do, you follow through, come what may. I've narrated this before. When we started Kingdom of Kings, actually, we 3 years delay. 3 years because I was scared. Not that I don't know what to say, but I'm a very quiet person. I don't like being showing my face. I want to be reserved. But Yah says this is the assignment. First year, I said it's going to happen. I canceled it. Got all pumped up. For the next year, canceled it. The third year, they had to chase me out of the place that I was hiding. And it was Pesach. I said, I'm going to do it this time. On Pesach, I'm going to do it. And that night, Yah comes in a dream. He says, 3 years, no donations. Don't take money from anyone. Nothing. 3 years. I'm going to rent a place. I'm going to pay for it from my own pocket. And it wasn't that I was making that much money. I couldn't afford the place. 3 years paying for a place to teach people for free. I called Madam Grant and I said, this is what Yah said. 3 years. No dime from anyone. It has to come from me to prove that I'm in it for the right reasons. People came and wanted to donate. Ask Madam Grant. We refused. No. Someone came and says, put a bow here. He says, what you're teaching, people will pay for it. Put a bow here. I said, no, it's okay. Don't worry. Nearly lost my house because I was almost 6 months of not paying it because I'm paying for a place, teaching for free. And when I get the letters from Wells Fargo, I don't want to open it. My wife doesn't want to touch it. Open it. He says, pay or it's going to be foreclosed. Madam Grant will come. Says, you're doing well. I said, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. I want to quit. It's hard. I want to quit. Let me focus on the family. It's okay. It's hard. I keep going. Keep going. Can you start something 3 years that you're paying? Madam Grant to go to work. I've gone to on the Shabbat. I have showed up that no one came. No one was there. Turn on speakers, computers, and start preaching to chairs. No one in the room. Madam Grant calls after. How was class? I said it was packed. It was powerful. She starts laughing because she knows what I meant. No one showed up. I come home and my wife would ask me, how did it go? I said, why, it was packed. She'd turn away and walk away. What would you invest in yourself so that your dream will come to pass? It's not money. It's not money. And when the 3 years was almost over, Yah says, bless your mom. I didn't have money. It was her birthday. I had nothing. I just had $1. Got a card, put the $1 in, sent it to my mom. That was when the 3 years was going to be over. I've not shared these details with, I don't want to call you strangers, but to the outside world. I'm doing this so you see what it takes. So that when someone else comes and tries to tarnish your image, tries to mock you, go like, you're too late. You're too late. $1, that is all I had. Sent it to my mom. She called me. I remember vividly where I was sitting that day when the call came. She said, my son. I said, yes, mom. She said, I got your gift. I said, that is all I had, mom. She said, that's the best gift you've given me. Go on your knees. And she blessed me. She prayed from her heart. And she says, yeah, next year, let it be $1,000. Next year, I sent her 5. She finished praying. It was getting to the end of the 3-year mark. She finished praying, hanged up the phone. She was in tears, crying that my son gave all. Most of us say we carry Bibles of men of God. They are weapons, whatever they call it, the Christian terms. Let me tell you a truth. Parents or guardians, there's a reason why I'm making those two. Sometimes parents get a little problematic, but parents or guardians, people that we look up to, people that have invested in us, they carry blessings that you will not find anywhere on a pulpit. Guardians and parents, see, we put them second after the so-called men of God. Honor your father and mother. That is the only commandment with a blessing. You remember Isaac? He said, Esau, go and get me the venison that I love, so that I will eat, so that my soul will bless you. Somebody can bless you with their mouth. Anyone gets that. But when you turn the soul of a parent, of a guardian, of someone that you respect, someone that has invested in you, and they lay hands on you when they release that blessing, it's too late. No one can change it. After my mom's prayer, she hangs up. Less than a minute, my phone rings again. It was a friend of mine who has the ability to see. I picked up the phone. He's like, Basil. He scared me. It's like, hey, what's up, buddy? He said, I just saw a portal open. You're going to be blessed. He said, what happened? I said, my mom just blessed me. He said, the time has come. This is where we started from. Not YouTube. Not YouTube. Don't envy anyone's glory. Check their story. Sit down and ask, Madam Sonia, how did you get here? Sit here and ask, Cynthia, how did you get here? Don't envy Cynthia, because what she had to pay to get there. Don't envy her glory. Check the story and learn from it. Don't waste your gift. Don't focus on heaven. Focus on earth. Impact us with your gifts, your ideas. When I write my books, you should read them. You will laugh. But before I was sent, Yah sent Madame Marie. I don't know her from Adam. Never met her with my eyes. He says, you're going to be in Las Vegas. You're going to start writing books. This one will edit it for you. And she's never taken a dime. Not once. Rabbi, bring it. Let me read it over it. Change this. Why? Legacy. Without her, there are no books. That is the part that she plays. Without you guys, there's no Kingdom of Kings. You see, you think you come every Saturday to listen to me. You're lying to yourself. I come to hear your questions. I come to learn from you. After the class, I sit and I listen over it all over again. Questions, contributions. Oh, wow. Mr. Jason just answered the question I had. Wow, I did not know this. I didn't know that. So you think you're studying from, I'm looking forward to the Saturday more than you. Because I'm going to hear from Cynthia's Torah. I'm going to hear from the Druze, their Torah. I'm looking forward to it. Because I can learn so much. I have to hear from someone else. So I'm sitting here, studying. I'm doing all the talking, but I study more when you ask questions, when you contribute, when you challenge the text. When Mr. David says, okay, how do you resolve this? Then I have to think and say, okay, I can resolve it this way. But then I know Mr. David, who'll add another one. So before I answer, I have to read the Torah in my head in like 2 seconds, go through the whole Tanakh and say, okay, I think I have an answer. That is how we study. So nothing comes easy. Don't let anyone discourage you. Someone might disagree with you. They don't matter. The only person who you want their kudos is the one who sent you. He's the only one who matters. The only one who matters. Not your YouTube following, Facebook follow. No. It's not the crowd. Jesus was scared of the crowd. Numbers. 70 people joined. He got scared. Because he knows people. He knows people. He knows followers. Leaders are not like that. Followers come and they leave. And they paint you black and say all this stuff. But leaders, they stick. They say, Rabbi, we don't think this is correct. Can you look at it? Oh, wow, yeah, that's true. It contradicts what I said. Oh, wow. Thank you for pointing it out. Okay, Rabbi, let's continue. That is lead. Those are leaders. So I hope this wasn't planned. This wasn't planned. Whatever you subscribe to, Old Testament, New Testament, New Testament only, Old Testament only, Messianic, non-Messianic. It's not relevant. When you leave here, your soul is not Messianic or non-Messianic. It's not. Your soul cares less. Doesn't care what your Messianic affiliations are. I sent you on a mission. Did you complete it? Did you start? Did you start? No. No. But yet on your tombstone, it has all, here lies the remains of blah, blah, blah. All the credentials on your tombstone, you didn't do anything. So my teacher told me, in closing, he says, what do you want to be written on your tombstone? I wrote something very nice. That was the last lesson we had. Wrote something very nice. He reads it and he smiles. He says, my son, die empty. Die empty. Put it all on the table. You don't need names on your tombstone because you left nothing behind. Thank you, Rebbe. We'll leave everything. We'll die empty. Closing words from anyone. Close for us. Mr. Jason, you want to close? Madam Cynthia? Mr. Drew? Madam Sonia?
Well, all I want to say is that, Brother Basil, it says that, and I think it's something to do with the New Testament, it says that basically a prophet is not recognized in his own home. So I think that Jesus said something like that, I believe. So even looking at that context, there's a lot to be said about. But I just want to say to you that this is one of the best classes I've ever been to in my life. And I just want to say thank you so much for this. You have just been like on today. Like just on. I mean, you're on all the time, but today I was sitting there and I have to say I was even getting annoyed with my little baby because he kept on making noise and like it was missing bits in between. I was like, no, yeah, just be quiet, just be. But you have been extraordinary, and I want to thank you so much for what you do and how you do it, and the fact that you allow us to be ourselves, to ask questions, and you don't feel threatened or upset or feel like anyone's dealing with you in a certain way. I'm just so grateful for who and what you are, and I just want y'all to bless you and bless the King of Kings. Shabbat Shalom. I want to say to everyone, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You know, this is family to me, real family. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Madam Cynthia. May Yah bless us all. May He keep us. May He shine His face upon us. And may He give us shalom. Yah, we have taught your word. You have taught us today. You have given us hope. You have given us strength. You never said it was going to be easy. You said we should walk before you. We should try. When we fail, we should get up. And we should keep pushing. Give us the faith of Abraham. Give us the strength of Jacob. Give us the heart of repentance, like David. Give us strength to continue like Joshua. When life gets hard, because it would, may we look up like they looked up and saw the hand of Moshe in Emunah, steadfast. Because at the end of the day, what we want to hear is you, faithful servant, against all odds, you kept going. Thank you, Father. Shabbat Shalom, Israel. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Israel.
But
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you very much, Madam
Shabbat
Susanette. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Wow. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Madam Edna. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Madam Edna. Thank you so much.
Rabbi, are you still there?
I am, Madam Susanette.
Okay, I would love to send this Q&A to somebody. Would you help me to do it?
Sure, definitely.
Is it possible?
It is. You want? If you send me the email, I can send it to them.
Thank you so much. You have no idea what you did today. No idea. No idea. But I thank you for it from the bottom of my heart.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.
May I bless and keep you.
Amen.
May His face always shine upon you and your family.
Amen.
Shalom.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm going to email the addresses to you.
Okay.
Good, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody on YouTube. Thank you so much for your time.